Holy cow, it sucks getting sick. Man, that really beat the shit out of me. It's so weird how it beats the crap out of you, right? I mean, you eat some kind of bacteria or bugs or something or whatever it is in a meal, and then your body starts rejecting it at both ends. You would think that while you're doing that, it's out. It's all she wrote, back to normal. Then I was taken down. Sarah said I slept till 3:30 in the afternoon yesterday before she felt she had to wake me up. I'm good now. Wind is howling out there, so if you hear that background sound, it's some serious wind out there. But anyway, back to normal. Thank God. Not scared to fart again. But anyway, lots going on in the world, huh? Lots going on in the world. You know, it's funny laying around sick, looking at stupid shit online, and listening to what's going on with my trusted, independent sources. I gotta say something. I saw a video, is it a mall in Toronto, Canada? And there's like four of these little skinny little shithead scumbags inside a mall, broad daylight, smashing the shit out of the glass displays in a jewelry store with the mall full of people. 2 security people. There's actually 2 absolute losers standing outside the store with, you can see a plain as day security on the back of the jackets, doing nothing. Nothing. And these little pukes smash the shit out of the display cases, grabbing the gold and diamonds or whatever it is, throw it in a bag, and they all just start running out. Ran out of the store, ran down the hallway in the mall. And then these 2 fat, absolute, sorry ass excuses for whatever they get hired to do, and somebody gave them security on the back of jackets, went slowly trying to run after them. It was like a comedy, like a sad comedy scene. And I don't know, am I right or wrong? I mean, I think there was probably, in a busy mall, there should have been at least 5 to 10 to 15 times as many of those culprits in men in that mall doing nothing. I can't wrap my brain around it. I know everybody's gonna have a quick semi-sarcastic excuse for what's going on, but I just cannot. I don't get it. I don't get it. I would have been in there grabbing the hammer after the first one I got a hold of and started beating the shit out of every one of them, as any self-respecting, quote, man should. I don't get it. I really seriously do not understand. And then after seeing that one video, then there wasn't another video, there wasn't a second one. I think there was like 5 or 6 or 7 more. And then the rabbit hole just kept on going on and on and on of these little fucking pukes annihilating society. And everybody's standing there like, how the fuck? If there's any of you out there have ever been standing by while something like that's going down, I would love to hear from you and explain to me how you got there. How did you get conditioned to do nothing? I don't get it. I actually reposted that little video on my Instagram story. And I even said, I'm like, fuck. If that happened in the town I'm living in now, those little shits, guaranteed they'd be packing their teeth home in their pockets in a town I live in. As they should. Right? As they should. Man, if you think that's wrong, there's something seriously wrong with you. No consequences. The destruction of society in modern times, right? Unbelievable. Unfrickin' believable. Yeah, fresh in my mind, had to say something. I don't give a shit what anybody thinks, anybody says is the right or wrong thing to do to me at this stage of the game. I see something like that going down, I'm going in there. I do not give a shit what the odds are. I'm gonna go in there and I'm gonna lead the charge. And we're gonna grab those little fuckers and beat them senseless. Right? Beat them frickin' senseless. Wait for the authorities to come, lock them up and fire them away. You gotta make it. The only way that shit gets in control is crime. Crime can't pay. Crime can't pay. It's gotta be too risky to pull shit like that. Right? It's gotta be too risky to pull shit like that. All right, I'm getting fired up. Fresh in the brain. I'm just still bewildered, amazed. I just cannot believe the shit that's going on and the lack of men doing the right thing today, globally. Blows me away. Moving along. All right, so get back to hearing from the people around the globe, the honest people, the brave people, speaking truth here together. And I freaking love and appreciate every one of you, I'll tell you what. United Kingdom, Big Cat replied to you. All right. Hi, Steve. Only first name on this, please, and no specific locations. I gotcha. Whatever you type, I'll read or not. RE, my email. All right, I gotta start this again. Sorry, I just read a whole bunch and it said in the beginning. Okay, I'll read it again, but as we go, he left all through the email specific locations. So I'm gonna have to read this and omit them myself. Hi, Steve, only the first name on this, please, and no specific locations. RE, my email you read on the 2nd of February. You asked why my parents didn't call the police. They didn't have a phone and the call box was quite a way off. They also decided that because this screaming came from all over the wood and kept moving, that it couldn't have been a human. My dad said he thought it was some sort of a spirit. My mother was on the fence. Either way, they didn't think the police would take it seriously. The other was the big cats. I first saw a puma/mountain lion in 1983 through a rifle scope. I was walking through sheep at dusk when they suddenly started running past me. I looked towards the woods from where they're running and I saw against the fence one sheep that was not running. I raised my rifle, a .22 long rifle, and I saw a mountain lion. I had a real good look at it as it was only about 120 yards away. I had heard stories but laughed them off, so this is a shock. I've always watched wildlife shows and read about them, so there was no question of what I saw. And 2 weeks later, it was seen near Worcester, where the rivers Teme and Severn meet. My sighting was it. Oops, door slammed out in the hallway. So there you go. So I'll leave out the GPS coordinates. The second was about 1995 at about 11 p.m. on a pretty dark night, half a mile away. I was walking the dogs, a GSD, and a lurcher through some black currant fields, which are now gone. They were rabbiting in the patch, and I was walking the headland where there was a load of rustling. And a short bark from the GSD. I heard something coming at speed up the row, and it came out right by me, passing no more than 6 feet away. It was a GSD size and black, same as my GSD, but was pretty quiet-footed. A few seconds later, the GSD came out in hot pursuit and was making a lot of foot noise in comparison. She was smaller than the first, and I immediately turned on the big torch, but too late to see the firsts go over a slight rise in the headland. Seconds later, and making up ground real fast, was my lurcher. I'm now running to keep tabs on them. I heard a crashing sound and a load of barking off both dogs, which came into view again, both barking up at a tree in the hedge at the end of the headland. I was now walking at speed so I could keep the beam steady at 60 yards, and as I got nearer, I saw the angle they were looking, which was straight up into a large apple tree. The GSD was looking back at me now, and then back up. I had never seen either dog so fired up as they were that night. I raised the torch now about 40 yards and slow walk, and looking at me, about 8 to 10 feet, were two huge green eyes. They'd look at me and then at the dogs. I could make out the dog's eye clearly, and this thing's eyes were twice the width apart. I measured the GSD's eyes later at 3.5 inches. So what was up the tree had eyes about 7 inches apart. I couldn't make out anything color or shape of this creature, but kept going nearer. At 15 yards, I stopped. This thing looked up at me and then at the dogs, turned and dropped down to the ground on the other side of the hedge. And as it turned, could see glossy black fur. The dogs took off and followed the headland. They didn't get far because of a fence by the road, thank goodness. And then you left the GPS where it ran past you and where the dogs treated. I now live in North Herefordshire. Neighbors have seen black leopard and lynx. I have heard the latter squaring up to each other. I didn't get any nearer than 150 yards as it was dark and my 15-kilogram dog had no lead. I was followed one night by something on 4 legs just inside the wood when I was walking along a track on the wood's edge. I was well spooked and walked 25 yards into the field with the rifle, now a .223 Remington at the ready. Going through the narrow gap in the trees to get I think he meant home, was nerve-wracking. A couple weeks later, my young neighbor asked if I had had anything followed me down the lane. He'd been walking his collie and was followed the same way. He and the dog also walked in the field away from the wood. A senior SAS officer lives not far away, and they are trained on local wildlife when they go overseas. He saw a lynx. Actually, you know what the actual way to pronounce lynx is? Link. Link. Even though it's spelled L-Y-N-X, it's pronounced link. He saw a link going across a local field. I was also shown by a gamekeeper in a gun shop some fantastic trail cam shots of black leopard. No shit. I'd like to see that. He would say where they were taken and wouldn't give his name or address. Doing a bit of research, he got them in the Teme T-E-M-E Valley, where I saw my BCs. I think he meant big cats. My house now, and where there are many sightings around with a GPS location, which I won't share. And I have got to know a guy called Rick. I better not share. You said not to share your name, so I'm not going to share his name. He lives down in Gloucestershire. Gloucestershire. Whatever. Gloucestershire, and is a big cat researcher. He has many videos and photos of big cats across the country. I have seen one good video he has of a horse being schooled, and in the background you can see a large black cat being followed by 2 smaller black cats. He's very open with he's very open with what is allowed to share. But like you, if asked not to share, he doesn't. He has a podcast, Big Cat Conversations. He also has a friend here in the UK who has moved back to Africa after being a guide/tracker. He's an interesting chap, and he sent me his email. Have a look at blank blank. Okay, you know what? I had a run-in with that woman, and she is a complete frickin' psychopath, and she did some real nasty things to some people over there. And I saw the police reports, the whole 9 yards. So I'm not going to report her name here. She reports her Bigfoot sightings, saw one herself when she was 15 years old, and other things like big cats, dogman, etc. Many folk are now admitting to seeing these cats. Sorry for rambling on, but a lot of sightings and as much info as I can think of passing on. Thanks for all your hard work, Steve. If you ever come over, there's a bed and a free keep here for you both. Kind regards. All right, appreciate you, man, big time. And your information, I got it. What can I share on my knowledge of big cats? This is what I'll tell you for certain. Big cats, they don't stop killing domestic animals. They don't go grab one, especially sheep. They kill all of them. They'll just keep killing the living shit out of them. So I'm very curious to know if that's been reported. It should have been reported by now. Absolutely should have been reported by now over there. An example, Salt Spring Island, just next to Vancouver Island. I have this book by a family who's like 2nd generation government predator control people, very skilled at tracking, capturing, killing big cats, wolves, everything. And in their book, I forget the name of the book, I got it at home. It was years ago I got this book. As an example, what big cats do to sheep, domestic sheep, just one example. The guy had 30 or 40 sheep, and a big cat started killing them, like really killing them. He put, I think he had 28 or high 20s was the number of sheep he had left, and he started having to put them inside the barn and lock them up to keep them safe from the cat. Well, that cat persisted and eventually found a way into the barn and killed every single one of them one night. So, dig a bit. Because at this stage of the game, I'm not so convinced that a lot of shit is not here full time. What does that mean? I mean, I'm just not convinced that a lot of things that people are seeing just may not be here full time. They may come here from somewhere else and spend some time and possibly go away again. Maybe. I'm not certain. But it's a thought I got on the back shelf. And I'm waiting for more fuel to feed that thought that's shelved over here, right? And I would love to see the pictures of the cats in the UK. I would love to. Because I've got some of the probably the best cat hunters ever that I know. If I could line it up, we would fly their dogs and their shit and equipment over there and tree some cats in days. Guaranteed. Wouldn't even be a question about it. They would have all those cats that are being seen up a tree within days. And the 7-inch spread on the eyeballs that you saw, just so you guys know, I've got a couple of big record book size cougar skulls at home, and their eyeballs are about that far apart. Maybe that far widest. That's it. Grizzly bear, 4.5 inches eye to eye, maybe 4 3/4. So there you go. Whatever's in that tree is kind of spooky, right? Here's another one. Sighting just north of Santa Barbara, California. April 26, 2024. Hello, Steve. I've written to you before. Hearing a Sasquatch roar in Sedona, Arizona. Also telling you my story about the 3 aliens I saw in a portal in Colorado. Well, the fun continues. April 26, 2024, we went to see a concert in Chumash Casino, which is located just north of Santa Barbara, California, next to the Solvang, to see Queen Nation, a Queen cover band. They were excellent. We decided to go home the same night, so traveling back home, it was late evening, as we went back through State Route 154 by Chumash Painted Cave State Park, as we have dozens of times before, but this night was different. I saw what looked like a dingy, matted gray thing that stood 6 feet or so with a pointy head facing away from us in the right shoulder of the road. And it wasn't as wide as most have mentioned in their sighting. When I saw it, I said, all right. My husband, who was driving, asked what I saw. And I started laughing and replayed it well. I started laughing and replied, well, it wasn't a tree. And he said, what was it? And I said, I think I saw a Sasquatch. He said, really? I said, yep, I can't unsee it. I could still picture the matted gray, dingy fur and pointed head. He said maybe it's a tree, and I said, well then, that tree was in the road and had matted fur. We took a trip back to the Chumash Casino for my husband's 61st birthday, May 15th, 2024, and looked on the way there and back on Highway 154, and was hoping to see something I could have mistakenly made for what I saw. Nope, nothing. And it's burned in my mind. I can't unsee it, and I'm glad I didn't see its face. So there you go. I'd like to add I don't drink and don't do drugs and never have. Thanks, Steve, for your platform to drop the message so we can carry on with life. Godspeed. You may say my name, Sally DeYoung. DeYoung. Sally, you are a brave, honest human being, and we are happy and proud to have you in the club. Appreciate your email. And I absolutely believe you saw that. Not a doubt. Not a doubt. All right, who's next? Mark, this is red. I had to turn on the air conditioning. You hear that at home? Had to. It just gets hot and sticky real quick. Saw something while deer ran the gauntlet. All right. Hi, Steve. My name is Mark. I'm from southern Vermont, and I've been hiding a secret now for 25 years. I have never told anyone about what I saw on a youth hunt with my son and 6 of his friends and their fathers. It was youth hunt for deer here in Vermont, and after morning sit on stand with my son, who was 12 at the time, we're going to meet up with our friends to do some deer drives for the kids. And after we all had a bite to eat, we decided to do a drive at a place we called the Spikehorn Drive. We called that because the first time we did the drive 2 years earlier, my friend's daughter shot a spike for her first deer. Now let me give you the lay of the land. The property is shaped like a triangle. There are 2 dirt roads, one on each side of the property, and one on the other side of the road there is a big apple orchard. I'm dropped off at the point where the 2 roads fork, and the others head down the road to get set up. My friend Jeremy is with my son, so I'm the one who will walk who will walk through the woods. Sorry. I'm the one who will walk through the woods. I think you meant through the woods. Sorry, I got it. Right? I don't pre-read shit. I'm the one who will walk through the woods toward them. All the kids are set up about 40 yards apart. When Jeremy calls me on the radio, I start walking towards them. I'm hoping the deer will be up on the flats feeding on beech nuts and some white oaks. As I crest the top of the flats, I look through my binoculars and spotted 3 deer feeding about 100 yards in front of me. I called Jeremy on the radio to have his kids get ready. So I slowly start towards the deer. And as I walked, they spotted me and ran towards the kids. I called on the radio to get ready. I supposed I should tell you my son was using his new Browning A-Bolt Hunter in .308, left-handed. I used to have one of those in 7mm mag left-handed. Great gun. This was the only gun I could find in the left hand and compact enough for his small frame. It holds 5 shots. This would be relevant too soon. As the deer ran towards the right, I figured the shooter set up close to the road would get the shot. And all of a sudden a shot rang out, and then another, and another, and another. And then I heard someone else shooting. Then it was like a war zone shot ringing out. As I took cover behind a tree, I looked to my left and I saw something very large and dark behind a tree, 60 yards in front of me. I thought it was a bear. But in all the commotion of the gunfire, it stood up and ran left out of my sight. I got on the radio and said, "Holy shit, you're not going to believe what I just saw." But just as I said that, it dawned on me, don't say anything. I was thinking about 3 years earlier when I told my friends I saw a mountain lion or a catamount, such they are called in a catamount? Such they are called in your neck of the woods? Typo. I was laughed at, heard all the jokes. You know what you were smoking. We know what you were smoking that night. Or you were drunk and saw a bobcat. And I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. So I decided to keep my mouth shut. I guess the critter was stalking the deer too. But I guess we ruined this hunt. So as I walked up to the others, Jeremy started with a question. He asked what I saw, but I didn't answer. And as we all came together, Jeff, who was closest to the road and saw the deer first, told the story. 5 deer in all were running towards him and his daughter. 4 does and a good buck. And as the deer were at 40 yards, she shot. And after the shot, the deer turned left and ran right. After the shot, the deer turned left and ran. There's a few typos. I'm just trying to read it smoothly, okay, guys? Right as the deer ran the gauntlet, 40 yards out in front of all the rest of the kids. Then, as I guess you could imagine, the firestorm started. 34 shots fired, not 1 deer hit. Even though I was pretty excited about seeing the big fella, I wish I could have seen those 5 deer running the gauntlet. It must have been quite a sight to see. I named this story Running the Gauntlet because all I can picture it too is the Clint Eastwood movie when him and the girl are on a bus trying to get to the city hall and all the cops are shooting up the bus. I think the name of the movie was The Gauntlet. Well, I hope you liked my story. I'm not much of a writer. Steve, keep up the good work. Thanks, Mark. Can I use your name? Never told anyone? We'll just use your first name, Mark. I appreciate your email, man. And who knows? At this stage of the game, who knows if that hairy person was hunting as well, or just trying not to be seen, or wondering how it got its ass there, and how am I going to get my ass out of here? Because maybe that hairy being wasn't there previously. Maybe. Maybe not. That must have been a sight to see all those kids laying a hell wall of lead down the lane, not touching anything. Believe me, I've seen that happen a few times. I appreciate your email, man. I'm glad you shared your secret. Here's another one. Sharing my stories is the title of this email. Steve, I grew up in the wilds of Idaho and Montana, hunting, fishing, and camping every year. I'm the eldest daughter and was taught early on how to take care of myself and others. How to shoot, how to set up and break down camp, cooking, and everything in between. As my grandfather on my dad's side was part Cherokee Indian, we also grew up with the tales of the wild men of the woods and the skinwalkers, that we were in their territory when we were camping and hunting, and to be mindful and respectful of our surroundings. Grandpa would tell us these stories, his eyes glinting in the firelight, and then smiling when we would say, "No way, you're just pulling your legs." And then he would say, "Just remember what I told you when you hear something strange in the wind, or when you are walking the trails and find something that seems odd." It wasn't until I was older, around 15 to 16 years of age in the early 80s, that I was allowed to stay back at camp alone to get lunch cooked for those who were out hunting or cutting wood. It was a little unnerving at first, hearing strange noises when you're alone, but after a while you get used to it, lol. One fall I had everything ready for lunch and was waiting for my family to come back to camp. We were situated on a slight rise north of the road, which curved around the campsite and headed back north again, with a marshy area that went up into a valley east of us, and we had seen sign of moose and deer around. I decided to take the binoculars with me to see if I could spot any animals out and about. I also took my sketching pad and pencils, wanting to draw the beauty of the mountains around me. Sitting on a huge rock about 50 yards from camp, down the hill near the road, I used the binoculars to check out the marsh and the tree line that ran from the road up into the valley on the southern edge. I was rewarded by seeing a female moose and a set of twins walking through the marshy area. The twins were trying to be careful, as it was pretty difficult to get around in the weeds and the tall grasses. I watched them for a while, laughing at their attempts to stay upright, but then a feeling came over me like someone was watching me. And so I looked back up to our campsite. I didn't see or hear anyone up there, so I looked around the marsh and up and down the tree line on either side of the marsh and didn't really see anything in the binoculars until my third pass up the tree line. And as I scanned, a, quote, tree stump, end quote, stood up and started walking just inside the tree line down toward the road. I was paralyzed there for a moment, wondering, what the heck was that? And then realizing, crap, I left the pistol on the picnic table. But everything went flying when he turned his head and looked right at me. He had been watching me watching the moose. According to the height of the trees around him as he walked, he had to have been at very least 8 to 9 feet tall, with long, shaggy, reddish-brown to dark brown mixed hair. His arms were long, his hands swinging down next to his calves, and would grasp limbs and the pines as he was walking. I was mesmerized, but soon jumped down from the rock, and picking up my art stuff and the binoculars, I ran up to the camper. I had come face to face with bobcat, mountain lion, black bear, and wolverine before, but I had never been as terrified as I was that day. Nobody had come back to camp yet for lunch. So I locked myself in the camper, and thinking back on the stories Grandpa told us, stories of how people had gone missing and were never found or heard from again, I made myself as small as I could in the back of the camper on the floor, using a blanket to cover me, and tried to calm my breathing. Pretty soon the noise of the birds and squirrels became silent, and I could hear something walking around inside of our camp, huffing like a bear and grunting. Oh, that would suck. I could see something large pass in front of the curtained window at the back of the camper, and then went around on the right side going towards the door. It stood there for a moment, and I held my breath, and then I couldn't hear it anymore. I'm not sure how long it was until I heard birdsong again, but it felt like forever. And not long after that, I could hear a vehicle coming, and then the sounds of my dad hollering the camp. I was never so glad to hear his voice. I jumped up and ran out the door and tried to tell him what had happened as everyone was climbing out of the trucks. And as I was telling him, my family started looking around at the ground, trying to find tracks of what I said had been in camp, but of course none were found, including along the road and in the soft grass, so no one believed me. Grandpa sat down in his chair near the fire and encouraged me to tell him about what I had experienced. When I related to him what I had seen, he nodded and said that he believed me. Everyone else just laughed and said I had a vivid imagination until we had packed up camp later that afternoon and were going to head home. And as the vehicle started to leave camp, everyone heard the sound of branches crashing and breaking, and a yell or a scream of something in the trees coming towards the camp. Everyone stopped and wondered what was going on until Grandpa yelled to get going again now. I was in the vehicle pulling the camper, and my dad was back checking to make sure everything was ready to take off when the scream came. And then the most awful stench of rotting meat mixed with wet dog and crap came in the windows of the truck. I've never seen my dad move so fast in my life. After he jumped into the truck and we took off, I asked him if he'd believe me now. He just gave a shaky little laugh as we headed down the mountain. I will never ever forget that afternoon for as long as I live. I don't believe that anyone else saw it, but I know that they had to have heard it or smelled it. They still give me a hard time if it gets brought up, but I know what I saw, what I experienced, and no one can take that away from me. My name is Cherie, and you can tell my story. Cherie Way. Cherie Ray. W-R-A-Y, and I appreciate you, Cherie. You're a brave, honest lady. They're just scared shitless of the topic, that's all. It's not that they don't believe you, it's just that it scares the living shit out of them, and they don't want to have to deal with it. Right? Prove me wrong. And that wind is screaming out there. Screaming. They knew, they know too, and they don't want to acknowledge it, and they probably never will. You should, excuse me, for the hell of it, you should send them this video. Make them watch and listen to everybody else. And listen to all the brave people being honest. My first and only sighting, this is how it's emailed. Steve Isdall. Hi Steve, my name is Andrew. I'm 32 years old, engaged and father of 5. What? Father of 5 at 32? You frickin' jackrabbit. First time emailer, long time follower of How to Hunt and your blacktail tactics. I live in Southwest Washington State, not far from Mount St. Helens. First of all, I'd like to tell you how much I enjoy your blacktail videos and information. My number one passion is hunting big old smart blacktails. I also archery hunt elk as well as rifle hunt predators. Unfortunately, we can no longer run dogs. However, I have experience with dogs. I was, for a few short years, a big game hunting guide in northern Idaho, hound hunting predators, as well as guiding archery and rifle deer and elk hunts. It was fall of 2019. After close to 25 years in the woods, I've seen something that has left me stressing every time I have to hike in the dark, going in or coming out of the mountains. Oh, I can relate. It was rifle deer season. I was hunting a massive 4x4 that I'd seen the year previous. I judged him around 20 inches wide and 15 to 16 inches tall. Around here, that's a very big buck. And let's just say he was my very own Zeus the Moose. I think I read this, but I'm going to keep going. Although he definitely was not the caliber of your Zeus the Moose. That's a nickname that I gave a massive buck I chased for a handful of years. The only downside is that that buck lives in the middle of nowhere. From my house to the beginning of the logging road is a 30-minute trip. Then it's an hour drive up the logging road to the very end of a certain drainage main line. Then it is an 8-mile bike/hike to where I want to hunt this buck. In order to get all the way up to where I want to be by daylight, I have to start my bike/hike a couple hours before daylight. I'm right there with you, my man. It was on this bike/hike trip up the trail that I seen something I've never seen before. The weather was rainy and drizzly, as well as thick coastal fog rolling in and out. I'd reached the point in the trail where I wanted to walk, as it was a very large patch of big timber with a long flat stretch of trail that has some major game trail intersecting. I've seen animals cross at that point many times, and there's enough light that I could see approximately 200 yards. I was slowly pushing my mountain bike with my left hand and holding my 270 with my right. And as I turned my head from looking off to my right, I looked straight down the trail at the point where the game trail intersects, and I seen a 7 to 8 foot tall, massive statured being, black in color, walking in steady stride across the trail, looking at me the entire time. The one detail that stands out the most, more than its size, color, or even threat level, was how long its arms were, well below the knees, with a significant constant sway and motion with each step. I froze in awe and shock at what the hell I'd just seen. I didn't move for several minutes. I was by myself. However, I wasn't scared into leaving. To be honest, it was like my brain couldn't really comprehend what I'd just seen. So I started telling myself anything to explain it away. Oh, it's just a bear. Maybe it was a real wet deer or an elk. It could have been a hunter in dark clothing with that orange on. Orange is required during rifle season in Washington. I finally felt assured it was something else other than what I'd just seen and continued on. I walked up to the point where the being crossed the trail thinking I would see a deer or a bear track to explain it away. However, there were no tracks of anything. The ground was a hard orange-brown clay. However, it was raining, and surely if anything on hoof or anything with claws walked there, it would have left a track. I looked and looked, and I found nothing as far as tracks. The sighting lasted literally seconds. Literally seconds. However, it was long enough for me to tell that there was no way in hell it was a bear, an elk, a human, a cat, or a deer. I successfully killed aforementioned species with many of each species. I've hunted, fished, camped, and worked in the woods for close to 25 years. I've seen some things in nature that most people simply would not believe could happen involving known species. Bear, elk, deer, bobcat to be exact. But I've never seen anything like what I seen that day. The more I replay in my mind what happened, I'm convinced I've seen a Bigfoot. I feel very awkward typing this. I've only told 3 people what I've seen that day, and 2 are my friends and hunting partners, and 1 is my uncle, who I have looked up to and inspired me to hunt since I was a kid. And all 3 of them literally laughed and gawked at me and told me how there's no proof. No game trail videos, no bones, no bodies. So I've never brought it up with anyone since, not even my wife or children. It's very assuring to see someone speaking truth to power on this subject. I seek zero publicity. In fact, I'd appreciate it if you don't share my name online. Oh shit, did you leave it in the beginning? I'll have to look. I don't need anyone thinking I'm crazy or hassling my family or I. And if I didn't have a wife and 5 kids, I would care less about putting my name out there. Hopefully you understand this point and don't let that take away from the truth of my encounter. Oh dude, I totally understand. No big deal. Huge respect for you. Feel free to share on a video, however, please just leave out my name. I live a very normal life. I'm not on drugs. I'm not psychotic. I'm a very healthy, stable, honest, hardworking man. And I have a family and do my best in raising, teaching, and providing for them. I've accepted what I've seen, and I'm at ease with accepting it. And what I've seen is what many would call a Bigfoot. I know what I've seen. Nobody can tell me differently. I don't even try to convince people at all. I know, and that's the bottom line. It's very frustrating there is not more information on these beings released to the general public. It's very frustrating there's not more open, honest research being done to reveal the truth. You, my friend, might be the one to reveal all that is being kept or silenced from the general public. Keep doing what you're doing. We are behind you. Okay, man, let me check from the beginning. Did you leave your name? Oh, you did. I gotta go back and find it and erase it. Okay, I gotta shut this off. Sorry, I'm reminded to. Hold on. All right, so there we go. Hold on, what else I got here? I got one more fairly short one. I might have read it before. It's not marked as read, all right? No big deal. And furthermore, it's in one of my backyards to where I've guided for years, so I'm gonna read it. Tashoti experience. And that's a river where a lot of people in British Columbia go hunt. It's very remote. Hi Steve, my name is John. I've watched your channel for the past 1.5 years and thoroughly enjoy your enthusiasm for the outdoors and the unknown. I was born and raised in Fort St. John area, and I'm a proud member of an Aboriginal community north of the city. That'll be the Blueberry Band. Having spent most of my childhood and early teens on the reserve hunting and fishing, my curiosity for what else may share the forest with always was in the back of my mind. And soon I began to ask our elders if there's anything our people may have encountered in the past. And they shared with me stories of the Bushmen, the wild people, not monkeys, that live deep in the bush and were treated with the same respect that any other creature that walks, swim, or flies. That brings me to my experience. This happened in the fall of 2017 in an area that I'm sure you're very familiar with, the Tashoti. My hunting partner and I decided we would try our hands out at mountain elk. Having only hunted the grain bulls of the Peace region, we planned an 8-day hunt, and after procuring a jet boat to take us up the Musquaw and then proceed up the Tashoti, we were on our way. Done the same path in a jet boat, only I went farther up, killed a ram, came home. I went to through Grizzly Lake off the Musqueam. Fast forward a couple of days into our hike, we set up spike camp at the bottom of a drainage. After spending a full day looking for elk in the bowls up the mountain, we came back to camp to recharge and make a plan for tomorrow. Laying in the tent making dinner, we began to hear something walking on the bluff above us. Thinking it's a bull coming down to the creek and still having legal light, we grabbed our rifles and slowly creeped out of the tent. And as soon as we got out, the walking stopped. We stood there for what seemed like forever, and nothing, not a squirrel or a bird made a sound, which was eerie. And after thinking it moved on, we retreated back to the tent. And as the zipper shut, the walking continued. After listening more attentively, it didn't sound like something walking on all fours. It sounded bipedal to us. Thinking nothing more of it, we dozed off to sleep. And sometime during the night, I woke to rustling in the bush around us. I listened for a while and then I dozed off again. And I again awoke just before daybreak. But this time, I saw the tent above my head moving. It was as if something was trying to pinch the tent between an index finger and a thumb. I instantly called out, "Hey!" And whatever was there moved away up the drainage on heavy feet. The next morning we decided to move back to base and hunt close to the river the remaining days. Me and my partner never spoke of what happened that night and haven't since. That's weird. Thanks in advance if you share my story. I'd appreciate it if you didn't use my name, as Fort St. John is small and my reserve even smaller. I apologize, it's a little long. Stay safe, and most of all, thank you for being our voice. Okay, man. There's a million people named John up in the piece, so we're all good. Nobody will figure out it was you. But if you've been here, I don't know how long you've been following the channel, but if you have, you know there's a piss load of people from where? Where should we start naming it? Tumbler Ridge, Chetwynd, Hudson Hope, Fort St. John, Pink Mountain especially, Fort Nelson, Toad River, Muncho Lake. These hairy people have been seen around those places dozens and dozens and dozens of times, right? Dozens of times. Is what it is. I got two close friends that had heard trees getting the shit beat out of them just up over to the right hand side of Jody Lake. Not too long ago. Woke up to that, they had the horses all tied up, and they could hear the tree blast going on and on and on. And then of course all the stuff that goes on. Well, where I go hunting now by myself is right near where you grew up, sort of, in the mountains farther west, right? Anyway, there you go, you guys. More voices heard. Crazy. End of emails for today. Now, quick tidbit. How about the world champion troller? Oh my God, you guys. The tariffs. It's amazing right now. I mean, I got absolute respect for the United States, period. My brothers and sisters in the U.S., the current president there, yep, absolute respect. But to watch how easily people get trolled, especially when you know that somebody's a professional troller. I mean, come on. You know what I mean? He wanted our borders tightened up. Who wouldn't? And of course, our the woke czar of Canada, we're not going to do anything, right? Gets trolled perfectly. Next thing you know, Canada's putting $1.7 billion into our borders, and the tariffs are dropped. Not too hard, is it? Somebody's the master of the art of the deal, right? Crazy. The most incompetent people right now are in the position here in Canada. It's just so embarrassing and cringe. It just sucks. But anyway, yeah, good entertainment there. You know when that absolute loser went down to Mar-a-Lago, where every single world leader businessman, when he gets invited down there, he gives him a room to stay at because there's over 100 rooms, and he told Trudeau to take a hike and piss off. go get yourself a room at the Big Six or whatever you call it, right? And then the little twerp came back to Canada and he started trolling the living shit out of him. If I would do anything to be able to know exactly what he truly said to Trudeau's face when he had him in that room. anything. And then he said flat out that he said to Trudeau, what do you think the United States could do to you? What do you think the United States could do to you that would absolutely crush Canada's economy? He said, well, you put some tariffs on our goods. Oh my God. Okay, consider it done. The next, right? I mean, the first time he wants something from Canada, he already gave him exactly what he needed. All right, perfect. As soon as I come up with my list of shit I want you to do, I'm going to dump that shit on your ass and you're going to do it. Done deal. Now, if you could only just get rid of him for us, If you could just get rid of him. The war on the woke. There's an avid war being waged on the woke, and I am all behind it. And I hope all you are too. Enough of this bullshit, right? Open season on the woke. It's time. Time to get common sense back. Anyway. All right, I think we're well enough. We're gonna go sweat it up at the gym again. Be back tomorrow. Share my story at howtohunt.com. Get it off your chest, get your truth, share it, all right? And be safe out there.